Hello? 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 Yeah. Hello, it is I, El Vencedor. Hello? And welcome to tonight's special Friday stream that I'm doing this way because it is such a cozy day today where I am because it's raining. It's a nice rainy evening. It's so nice and cool. So nice and cool today. And I just want to relax. You know what I'm saying? I just want to relax. But there's no relaxation for the wicked. So, yep, I'm gonna read to you guys my novel. So tonight's stream promises to be a little shorter than usual. This is called The Mystic Quest, and it's a novel written by me. Excuse me, I have a bit of phlegm. So I hope that you guys can enjoy this original story by me. And it begins in three, two, one. Let's go. I guess it's normal for old boys to dream of leaving their hometowns for adventure, to scale unscalable mountains, to go through impassable swamps, to defeat undefeatable foes. It's all so exciting. Oh, but adventure of that caliber is as far from Berg as it gets. This is my teeny, tiny little hometown of Berg. It's a little milling village that's pretty much built around the sawmill, with a few small farms out by the village edge. We're a village of about 30 people, and 10 of us work the sawmill, 3 of us are smiths, and the rest of us do some farm work and whatever. But sometimes, me and the lads like to go out into the woods and do a little hunting. There's a slime, said my best mate Fritz. Think you can handle it, Roy? I can, I said as I held onto my fighting stick tightly. Fritz, Deitch, and I had been practicing our hunting for 5 years now, since we were wee lads. Now we're 15, and that made us men. I sneaked to the little slime as carefully as I could. It was a brown slime, which meant it made its living off of dead leaves and fallen twigs, and it was about 30 centimeters in diameter. To kill it, you have to give it a good whack on the noggin with a good thick stick. I quietly sneaked to the slime, and one fell whack! I hit it. The slime's core cracked, leaving behind its oozy body for me and my mates to collect. Yes! I said in celebration as I held aloft the oozy body for my mates to admire. I am Roy Slimesbane. Tremble before me, O jigglers of the woods. But what do we do with the ooze? Asked Deutsch as he scratched his chin. Oi, Deutsch, you blockhead, said Fritz as he smacked Deutsch upside the head. We can bottle it and sell it off to a traveling trader for pennies. I think brown ooze gets you a penny and a half, I said as I motioned for Fritz to take out the bottle for me to put the ooze in. I then put the ooze right into the bottle, filling it up. Scavenger slimes don't make that much money, I fear. The real money to be made in town is with the sawmill, Fritz said as he frowned and crossed his arms. Even the smith can't make money without the mill. Speaking of, is it really okay for you to be out here, Roy? Asked Deutsch as he poured water into my hands. It's not safe to handle scavenger slime ooze. They're dirty. I mean, I can't imagine Mr. Gunther. Oh, bloody hell! I said as I put the jar of ooze into my pocket. Then I rushed back to Berg, bidding goodbye to my mates. In truth, I was not at all in a position to be out and about with them. I had chores that needed to be done, but they slipped my noodle. As I entered the town, I made my way to my house, the smithy. I'm actually the apprentice of the local smith, Gunther, who is also my adoptive father. His wife, Mika, also helps us with the smithing, and she is my adoptive mother as well. We are a happy family, honestly. The smithy is located but a few yards away from the sawmill. This is for ease of transporting saw blades to and from the mill. Lo and behold, Gunther was busy at the smithy, sharpening a wood axe for one of the lumberjacks. Pardon my tardiness, I said to Gunther, who looked up from the axe. I could tell he was a mite cross with me. Ouch. I was out with my mates, see, and you forgot we had axes to sharpen? Gunther asked, a serious look to him. Roy, we've been through this. There's a time for boyish fun and a time for work. This morning was the time for work, and now you're behind on your duties because you've neglected them. Forgive me, I said, wincing. I then took out the bottle of brown ooze. Look, I slew a slime, however. Selling this can net us a penny and a half. Ah, but you had your chores today. You could have earned 3 pennies by sharpening the axes, Gunther said, grinning. And unlike with that ooze, you would not need to await the traveling salesman. Oi, I said as I hung my head in shame. Now it is nearly time for luncheon. But, Gunther said as he handed me a dull axe, I want you to sharpen this axe first, then sharpen that axe over there, and then you can have luncheon. Yes, sir, I meekly said as I took the axe. I walked up to the grindstone, sat on the seat, put my foot to the paddle, and paddled away. It took me a bit, but the axe was soon sharp enough to split a hair. I then repeated the process with a second axe, grinding it away. Once I was done, I noticed the sun was past the zenith. Luncheon time was nearly over. I rushed inside the house, only to find Mika had heated my food for me. It was a plate of roast fish, potatoes, and green beans. I smiled at her in gratitude. Enjoy your meal, Roy. She smiled at me as she stroked my hair. I then ate the meal with all my gusto. It was delicious. To wash it down, Meek poured me a cup of well water. It was cool and refreshing. The rest of the day was spent doing our work. Gunther gave me bent knives to fix, as he smelted some iron ore to make new nails. By the time the sun had set, he and I were tired. Mika, Gunther, and I had our supper. Bread with cheese and lettuce, apple soup, and some nuts. We bid each other a good eve, then went to bed. As I laid in bed, sleep did not come to me. I pondered my life. Was I really to be doing this until my twilight years, pounding and smelting metal? I sighed to myself, yearning once more for the chance to see the world beyond the woods and the village fence. As I gazed out the window, a bright light shone above the river. I watched as a ball of light careened across the river, zigzagging jerkily through the air before coming to a crash by the river shore. Overcome with curiosity, I exited my home and raced towards the riverbed, to the spot I saw the ball of light crash. Nothing could have prepared me for what I saw. A little woman laid on the ground asleep, barely 3 inches in height, with wings like a butterfly on her back, and little antennae on her head. I picked her up and nudged her awake. End of chapter 1. Let's go to chapter 2. I took the little lady and rushed her home, waking up Gunther and Mika in the process. As I lit a candle, the two's eyes widened upon seeing the little lady. By God, it's a fairy, said Gunther as he stroked his hairless chin. His cheeks are very hairy, though. Where did you find her, Roy? By the river bed, I replied as I watched Mika gently nudge her awake. Did anyone see you? Asked Mika as we watched the fairy stir awake. Not that I know of, I said. It's rather late. I think it is midnight. Just a bit before midnight, in fact, said Gunther. I wager the hourglass will be turned 4 times before the sun rises. Uh, the little fairy said, letting out a yawn. She opened up her eyes, and I saw they were emerald green. Her hair was short and brown, and she was fully nude. Big people! I am in the land of man! Little one, might we have your name? Asked Mika as she wrapped a small cloth around the fairy. This one is named Mint, said the little fairy, Mint, as she curtsies. Who are you big people? Gunther introduced us to the little fairy, who smiled politely to us all. What brought you here? Asked Mika. You're a long way from the land of enchantment. This one can't say, said Mint, looking downcast. This one is sorry. I'm sure you have good reasons, said Mika, as she offered her hand to the little fairy to stand on. I welcome you to our home, O fair one. Tee, this one is honored, said Mint, giggling as she hopped onto Mika's hand. Big Lady Mika, are you a queen? Queen of the house, maybe, said Mika as she left. Otherwise, no. What of yourself, Miss Mint? This one is a servant of Her Majesty, Queen Titania herself, Mint said with much pride. In fact, can this one talk to Big Lady Mika alone? Certainly, said Mika as she signaled for me and Gunther to step out of the main room. We did so, going out to the bench outside. The moons were out, with Primaria waning and Secunda waxing. The moons are turned away from each other, said Gunther as he and I watched the moons. Do you know what that means? Not really, I replied while shaking my head. A great change has begun tonight, he said, smiling. When Primaria and Secunda share the sky as full moons, the great change shall be truly complete. Is that true? I asked, curiously. It is no coincidence this happened on the eve of the solstice, said Gunther as he lay back. Traditionally, the summer solstice has always been the time for change, just as the winter solstice has always been the time for great ends. Will we have the solstice feast tomorrow? I asked. I'm certain we shall, said Gunther, but we can't let anyone know of Mint. Understand? Why not? I asked. Because too many people might try to take her, Gunther replied as he stretched. Goodness, what a cool night. Who would believe summer begins tomorrow? Come in, you two, said Mika as she peered from the window. You'll catch your death of cold. Gunther and I went back inside. Our house has two rooms, the main room and the side room. We sleep in the main room, which has a hearth, during cold nights, and on hot nights, we sleep in the side room. I spoke to the little fairy, Mika said as she fluffed her straw pillow. We agreed to house her tonight, but come the end of the solstice, she will leave at first light. It is for the best, said Gunther as he yawned. Now, let us get some sleep, family. The morrow promises to be long and hot. Much later that day, it is my tradition to visit my parents' graves every festival. Their graves are located just outside the village, under a linden tree. Like most graves, theirs are marked with the symbol of God's grace, a line that splits in two at the end. I knelt down to the graves, brushed the leaves away, and began to sing. Give me a second. Sing cuckoo, sing cuckoo. Summer is arriving soon, so sings the cuckoo. Grow the seed and pour them in to sprinkle life anew. Sing cuckoo. Ewes are bleating after lambs, cow lowing after lambs. Bullocks prancing, matins dancing, gently sing cuckoo. Cuckoo, cuckoo, such a lovely songbird. Please don't ever stop. Happy solstice, Mom and Dad, I said to their graves after I was done singing. I could feel my eyes sting a little. Miss you two very dearly, but don't worry. Gunther and Mika take good care of me. I know you two know, for you're in heaven, yes? Mika told me. I sighed. My parents died when I was much too young. I barely recall them. I can only recall Mom's singing voice, and that's barely. In truth, when I think of Mom and Dad, it is Mika and Gunther whom I imagine. I hope my real parents will forgive me for that. Pardon me, I heard a voice said. I turned around and came face to face with an old man with a white beard that reached to his chest. He wore a gray robe, a gray pointed hat, and he carried a walking stick. I seek a man named Gunther and a woman named Mika. Perhaps you know of them. Yeah, I live with them, I said with a nod while pointing to the village. I'll lead you to them. I led the man towards my house, glancing over at the townsfolk who were setting up the table for tonight's big feast. Once we reached my house, we saw Mika sweeping the path that leads to our door. Her eyes widened upon seeing the old man. She rushed towards us and bowed before the old man. Lord Prospero, she said as she led us towards the back of the house, where Gunther was finishing sharpening the nails he made yesterday. How may we be of service? I noticed Gunther drop the nails in shock and bow before the old man. Just who was this old guy? As much as I would like to exchange pleasantries, with precious little time for such, let us head inside, said the old man. Mika and Gunther didn't even hesitate to let him inside the house. Little fairy, it is safe for you to come out. Big man has such power, said Mint as she peered out of her hiding place behind the hearth. She dusted herself and flew towards the old man. I know why you are here, said the old man as he smiled at Mint. Would you care to return home? This one cannot, said Mint as she placed her hands behind her wings, looking downcast. Not until she finds the man who can defeat the man of knowledge. Ah, yes, the man of knowledge, the old man said with a smile as he stroked his beard. Tricky fellow, that one. I know someone who might be able to beat him. Sadly, he is not here. But if you were to travel with this young man back to the land of enchantment, you will surely find him. Prospero pointed at me with his walking stick, and that shocked Mika, Gunther, and me. Lord Prospero, are you sure? Mika protested as she placed herself in front of me. He is just a young boy. My husband, Gunther, you know he was once a powerful knight. Surely he... Just as you were once a brilliant battle mage, Lady Mika. But I'm afraid I've already foreseen the end of this journey, said the old man, apparently called Prospero. There is no one in this room or this town who can defeat the man of knowledge and save the fair folk. Only on the road can such a man be found, and only if the boy goes with the little fairy. A trip to find a hero hiding somewhere along the road to the land of enchantment, the chance to see new sights, meet new people, discover new things, an adventure! Mika, Gunther, I'm willing to go, I said, hiding my excitement for this new adventure. I could leave Berg and see the world. I can find the man who can beat the knowing man. Or a woman, Mika said insistently as she gave me a stern look. Do not underestimate the fair sex, Roy. If Lord Prospero says so, I am not one to argue, Gunther said with a sigh. I'll prepare your baggage, Roy. I expect you to be well rested for tomorrow's trip. You must leave at first light, Roy, said the old man, Prospero, as he stroked his beard. I'm going on an adventure! And that's the end of chapter 2. Give me a second while I rest my voice. Whew. Whew. Oh. Next chapter. Chapter 3. The summer solstice feast lasted literally all night long, which made it all the harder for me and Mint to get some sleep. But somehow we still managed to get about 4 turns of the hourglass worth of sleep, in spite of the music, the hollering, and the dancing that could be heard. Mika and Gunther, who had stayed up all night at the feast, came home specifically to wake me and Mint before the rooster crowed. By the time he crowed and the first light of the dawn was sneaking up from the horizon, Mint and I were already packed and ready to go. Now remember, Roy, Mika said as she finished packing some bread into my bag. Keep Mint away from people's eyes. Fairies are rare outside the land of enchantment, and many greedy folks would gladly sell her for a whole thaler. A thaler is a large silver coin. 10 pennies are worth 1 groschen, and 10 groschen are worth $1. A thaler is a lot of money. Personally, I've never seen anyone with a thaler, but I know of them because Gunther told me. Now, take this with you, Roy, said Gunther as he handed me an old sword. It was 2 feet long, had a 9-inch crimp, a crossguard, and a simple round pommel. This sword served me well during my time as a knight, before Mika and I came to this town. May it serve you as well. You remember how to use it, yes? Of course I do, Gunther, I said as I pointed to the tip of the sword. The pointy tip goes inside the bad guy. Gunther seemed serious before a moment, but then he burst into laughter. He helped me tie the sheath of the blade to my waist, and then I sheathed the sword. Be careful, said Mika as she gave me a tight hug and kissed my forehead. Come back safe. When you return, we will have a big meal together, Gunther said, smiling at me as Mika's tears fell down her face. When I saw that, I nearly hesitated to leave, but I could not leave. But I couldn't not leave, if that makes sense. The call of adventure was too strong. By the time the rooster crowed, I was already making my way out the northern village gate. I passed the mill, where already the lumberjacks were sawing logs into lumber. I passed the farms, where already the farmers were harvesting the grain. I passed by my mates, Fritz and Deutsch, who were working the mill and the field respectively. I bid everyone farewell, and when the sky went from deep blue to kind of pink, I began racing down the road, going as fast as I could so I could not be tempted to go back home. By the time I was tired, the sky went from pink to a soft blue, and the sun was finally out. The forest was far behind me. Mint and I were out in the fields of Ebla now. We sat under a chestnut tree for shade as we survey our surroundings. Barring the road and some trees dotting here and there was naught but grass as far as the eye could see. Way to the horizon, I could see a tiny speck, the smallest hint of the Skull Mountain, home of the orcs. Far beneath that mountain, in a cavern deep and vast, was the entrance to the land of enchantment, where I was to deliver Mint. What a beautiful day, said Mint as she perched herself on my shoulder. Oh, this one likes the breeze. It's a nice summer breeze, I said to her. Summer days are the best. As they get so hot, it pays to be lazy. But we must always awaken early, lest we lose precious time to do our work. In the land of enchantment, time is different, said Mint. Always spring. This one has never seen the summer before. Well, I can say this, I said, chuckling. Judging from the brightness of the sky, the hourglass must turn 4 more times before it is time for luncheon. Oh my, said Mint as she flapped her wings, her mouth agape. This one thought the midday was but 1 hour away. It is already so hot. Yes, it is quite hot, I said, chuckling. In a time like this, a peach water would be lovely. Peach water? Asked Mint. Aye, it's a drink you make by peeling a peach and placing the meat into a jug of water along with some mint leaves, I said. Quite delicious. Oh my, Mint said, her eyes wide, her smile wider. This one wants to try peach water. We continued our journey after taking a good rest. By the time when the sky was darkening, we had reached a town surrounded by golden fields of wheat. The town had a simple wooden fence around it, with a small gate big enough to deter wild dogs and mayhaps small wolves, though I suspect the torches that were lined beside the gate also helped sway animals away. The town had many buildings made of rock and thatched roofs, though close to the fields the houses were instead made of straw. The middle of town was a large square that was about 10 meters long, 15 meters wide. The ground was flat and dusty, a sign that many traversed it. As Mika instructed me, I had hidden Mint in my pocket, though by the way she fidgeted I could tell she was uncomfortable. I sighed and made my way towards the edge of town, where a building with a stable and a throw at the side caught my eye. It was an inn, just as Gunther described them. I looked to the sky. Nightfall was less than 1 hour away. As I neared the inn's entrance, a man stumbled out. He was an ill-kept man, with a scraggly beard, a stained red tunic, brown trousers, a brown cape, and a large bag over his shoulders. The poor sod took 3 steps out the door when he stumbled down, falling face first into a mound of manure. "Sir!" I called out, helping him get back up. "Are you all right?" He began to slur before turning to me. "Take pity, young man, and spare me a penny for my next meal." "What?" I asked, recoiling from his horrible breath. Oh, this man was sloshed beyond belief. Gunther warned me against men like this. They spend their pennies on the drink. I shall tell him to bugger off. But Gunther also taught me pity. With a sigh, I reached into my coin bag, took out a penny, and gave him it. "God smiles on the charitable," said the man, smiling as he tumbled back into the inn. I sighed and entered as well. "Bartender, another one!" I groaned as I watched the man give away the penny I gave him in exchange for a pint of ale. Pardon me," I said to the man I assumed was the innkeeper. "How much is a night's stay?" "No more beds left," said the innkeeper, "but for 2 pennies you can sleep in the barn. That, or you can sleep out in the fields for free." Not a very attractive alternative. I paid the man 2 pennies, walked out to the barn, and found a good spot right next to the donkeys. Moments later, the sloshed man from before stumbled towards the barn, a smile on his face. "Ah, my favorite drinking buddy," said the man, now more sloshed than before. "Let's get some ale." "I am not of age to drink that stuff," I said as I laid on the barn. I needed him gone so I could take out mint. "Too bad," laughed the man, who soon after fell face first into the hay. Though he was a whole meter away, I could still smell the alcohol on him. It reeked. "This one does not like the smell," said Mint from within my pocket. "Can you take this one away from that smell, Mr. Roy?" "I can try," I said as I got up and walked towards the other side of the barn, right next to the horses. There was a nice bale of hay, big enough for me to sleep on. I took Mint out and carefully hid her in the hay. Although I could sense she was soon asleep, I could not say the same for myself. My worry for Mint kept me awake all night long. That is the end of chapter 3. Give me a second while I catch my breath, okay? Thank you. Next chapter. Chapter 4. I awoke with the first light of the day to the foulest stench ever. I looked over to my side, and that blasted drunk from yesterday was sleeping literally half a meter away from me. I nearly retched. I got up as soon as I could and checked my pockets. Mitt wasn't there. I dug through the hay and immediately found her, sleeping soundly in a little pocket of air she made for herself, apparently. "Good morrow, Mr. Roy," she said as he let out a little yawn. She got up, stretched, and flapped her wings. Then she sniffed the air and covered her nose. "Ew, this one smells something stinky." I motioned towards the drunk, who was now snoring quite loudly. "Oh," said Mitt, looking a bit downcast. "That big person has a great sadness in him." "Huh?" I asked. "What do you mean?" "His heart is sad," said Mitt as she fluttered towards my hand. "This one can sense it." "How?" I asked as I opened my pocket and gently slid her in. "This one is a fairy. We can sense the emotions of people," she replied as she ducked into my pocket. I got up, turned around, and left the barn. Just outside the barn was a man peeling radishes, whistling. As soon as I turned the corner, however, I felt uneasy for some reason. As I approached the town's gate, I felt that unease again. I saw a man stand by the gate, holding a big stick. The man looked to be 6 feet tall, and his arms looked rather thick. Approaching him made me feel more at unease, so I stopped. Then he turned his gaze right at me. "Your pockets, boy," said the man, his voice sounding gravely. Empty them. If it's money you seek, I said, taking out my penny bag, it is all in here. Put that on the ground, too, said the man as I heard footsteps behind me. There were two more men, including the man I saw peeling radishes. He brandished his knife against me. The other was holding a thick club. Empty your pockets. I have nothing of value, I tried to argue. At that moment, my hands were sweating, my knees were shaking, and a lump formed in my throat. Then what were you talking to back in the barn? Asked the radish peeler. That's right, boy. I heard you. Saw you, too. We know you have a fairy, said the club man as he waved his club at me. Hand it over and maybe you won't get hurt. Don't have it over and we'll bury you at the ditch just outside of town, said the tall man at the gate as he grinned at me. Now what's it going to be? Oi, this doesn't seem hospitable to me, said a fourth voice. It was a drunkard who snuck up behind the radish peeler. Can't you see this kid's scared? Now how about we take those pennies and buy us a round of ale? Bugger off, said the radish peeler as he turned his knife to the drunk, who merely grabbed the man's hand and twisted it, causing him to drop the knife. What the devil? At that point, the drunkard punched the knife-wielding man's face with such force the latter fell to the ground, bleeding from his nose profusely. Or no! Yelled the club-wielding man. He swabbed his club at the drunkard, who merely ducked and then punched the former in the stomach with such force I could hear the punch from 2 meters away. The club-wielding man fell to the ground, struggling to breathe. The drunkard then picked up the radish peeler's knife and aimed it at the man at the gate. Shall we? Asked the drunkard, grinning. I leaped aside as the gate man rushed towards the drunkard, holding his stick aloft. The drunkard then dashed towards the man, and faster than I could blink, the tall man was crying out in pain, falling to the ground. The drunkard had hit the man with the dull side of the knife. My God, I said to no one in particular. I then walked towards my penny bag, picking it up. Good sir, how can I ever... Well, your mistake was letting your fairy out yesterday, said the drunkard, looking at me with utmost seriousness. While you slept like a babe, you are being watched by these vultures, looking for the chance to rob you blind. Chances are they would kill you if you woke up in the act. You were lucky I was there, kid. I gulped. I was way too close to dying for my comfort. First rule of the vagabond, kiddo, said the man as he placed his arm around me. Never let your valuables out if you're sleeping outside. Name's Orsted, by the way. Yours? I'm Roy, I said, feeling more at ease. Roy, eh? Asked the drunk Orsted. Where are you going? To the land of enchantment. To return, you know. Ah, said the man as he began to walk to me to the end. See, I took one look at ya, and I noticed... Oh, thank you, Riano Sylvain. Let me continue. See, I took one look at ya, and I noticed you don't know horse dung from mud. Tell you what, I'll go with ya. Keep you safe from thugs like these three. I couldn't ask, I began, but Orsted hudged me. In exchange, how's about a drink or two? Asked the older man, grinning. Come on, we ain't in a hurry. And so it was that I paid for Orsted to have 3 bottles of ale, which he insisted was for the road. As soon as he got his bottles, he placed them in his bag and motioned me to follow him. We left the town via the gate. Once we were far enough from town, Orsted opened his bag once more. Hey, little fairy, said Orsted, hide in here. It's better for you. Less cramped. Wait, how can we know we can trust you? I angrily asked, but that was when Mint poked her head out of my pocket, climbed out, and flew up to me. It's okay, Mr. Roy, said Mint, smiling sweetly at me. This one has already looked into Mr. Orsted's heart. Beyond the sadness, there is nobility. If it makes you feel better, kiddo, said Orsted as he handed me the bag. You hold on to this, okay? Very well then, I said, taking the bag and letting Mint fly in. I must admit, I knew she had more room inside it. All right, we're traveling buddies now, Orsted happily said as he and I walked down the road. And that is the end of chapter 4. Let me just rest my voice a little. Hello, Riesel! Thank you for joining me. I hope that you're enjoying the reading. Next chapter, chapter 5. Look, look! Mint exclaimed as she flew up to a small bed of flowers. There were red flowers, blue flowers, and white flowers growing next to a rock by the road. America. As the road was lonely, Orist and I agreed Mint could come out and fly beside us. Oh, this one loves flowers! Ain't there flowers in the land of enchantment? Asked Orist as he sat on the rock. There are, yes, said Mint as she smelled the flowers. Some are so large they reach the sky. Some are so small they fit in this one's hand. Some speak, but not all. Huh, tall flowers, chuckled Orsted. I think I saw some once. That was when I stepped into a fairy ring. Fairy rings? I asked as I took out a bottle of well water from her bag. I opened it, but the foul smell was all I needed to know. I accidentally took a bottle of ale. Hey, pass it over, said Orsted, extending his hand. As soon as I gave him the bottle, he chugged the ale down quickly. Ah, damn, warm. I like my ale nice and cool, like a spring in the summer. Unless it's winter, in which case I'll take it warm. I see, I said, pressing my lips. Orsted was quite the drinker. That was his third bottle since the sun rose, and it was barely noon. He, on the other hand, seemed no worse for the wear. "Oh my!" said Mint as he flew further off the path. "Come look! A fairy ring!" Orist and I followed Mint, coming across a ring of mushrooms that was a quarter meter in diameter. There were white mushrooms, red mushrooms with white dots, and brown mushrooms. "Oh dear, this fairy ring has no magic left," Mint said, sadness in her voice. "If it had, this one could go back to the land of enchantment." "Judging from the mushrooms, this here ring was made about 3 nights ago," said Orsted as he knelt down beside the ring. "Yep, 2.5 nights ago, minimum. Probably used by one of the bigger fair folk." "Fair folk?" I asked. "Fairies," said Orsted as he got back up. "But a lot of them don't like being called that. They prefer fair folk." "We are also called the children of Oberon," said Mint as she perched herself on my shoulder. "But Oberon is not the king anymore. The man of knowledge is." "Who?" asked Orsted. "A year ago there came a man to the land of enchantment," said Mint, "and this man trapped the king, sealing him away. Now this one and her friends and family have to do what he says. Even her ladyship has to." "A year ago?" asked Orsted. "Let me think. One day in the land of enchantment is about a year out here, so I'd say that knowledge man went to the land about 300 years ago, give or take a decade." "Blimey," I said, my eyes widened. "That must be from before Rune was united." "Oh?" asked Orsted, looking at me quizzically. "You know history?" "Aye, Gunther Mika taught me," I said, as I began to recite the history of our kingdom. "Long ago, the kingdom of Rune was divided into 7 kingdoms, but then came Rune the Great, who united the kingdoms to fend off an invasion." "That's the one this one came to seek," said Mint. "Rune the Great. Her ladyship told this one that he can help defeat the man of knowledge. Oh, but this one couldn't find him as much as this one tried." "Mint, Rune died centuries ago," said Orson as he shook his head. "That's why you'll never find him." "Oh," said Mint as her voice broke. "That explains why the powerful man told this one to return to the land of enchantment." "I was wondering what a little fairy was doing out here," said Orster as he stretched, letting out a loud belch. "Oi! It's nearly luncheon. Come on now, let's eat." I sighed and took out the bread, the cheese, and dried meat for us to eat. Orster ate his food with another bottle of ale, whilst I drank well water. "You think whoever used the fairy ring's gone back?" I asked Orson. "Quite likely," Orson said, shrugging. "I figure if they were still around, we could ask them to take Mint too. Guess we'll have to go on foot." "But this one was told that, should she go on a trip back to the land of enchantment with Mr. Roy, she would find the one to defeat the man of knowledge," protested Mint. "So far we have found no one." Orson let out a loud belch. How do you know I can't beat the man of knowledge? He asked. Can you? I asked, and this made him laugh out loud. Nah, I'm joking, he replied as he lay down on the ground. Well, the next time we find, we gotta do some light work, earn some pennies to buy more ale. Is the ale all you think about? I asked, giving Orson a stern look. No, he replied, his voice sounding quieter than usual. Oh? I asked, my eyes widening a bit. I was surprised by how glum he suddenly looked. One thing about us adults, kid, is that sometimes we think too much, Orson somberly said. But things like ale and mead, it helps us to slow down and not think so much anymore. It's like, imagine your head is a horse, eh? And when you're a young one, that horse is but a prancing little pony. But when you're an adult, the pony is a stallion, and sometimes it likes to go out and run with the wind. I listened to him, and just like you can't stop a wild horse when it rides like the wind, neither can you stop the wild thoughts, said Orsted, sounding glum. But the drink, boy, the drink slows the horse down enough, even if only for a little bit. Does your mind race like that? I asked. And not a day goes by when it doesn't, replied Orsted, his eyes looking glum. Oh, but the drink makes it easier to live with. Speaking of, pass me another bottle, would you? With a sigh, I passed him another bottle of ale. Whatever it is causing Orsted's mind to race like he claims, certainly the drink is not doing him the favors he believes it to be doing. And that is the end of chapter 5. I'm going to be reading 2 more chapters, and that's it. Can't read the whole thing. Come on. Next chapter. Chapter número 6. I awoke at first light, as I've grown accustomed to doing on this journey. Mint was also up by first light as well, having slept within my hair. Unfortunately, the same could not be said for a traveling companion, Orsted, who chose last night to drink himself to a stupor, and thus he was asleep as a log. Ah well, what can be done? Come, Mint, I said to my little fairy companion, let us go to the stream and fish. After about 3 days of traveling from the town of Golden Fields, the three of us found ourselves within a woodland. There was something odd about this woodland, however. The trees were much bigger, seemingly reaching towards the sky. The roots of the trees would jut out of the ground, with many of them creating puddles for small fish and tadpoles to swim in. The canopy was so thick, there were many spots within the wood where I could swear it was nighttime, even at noon. Mint and I left the beaten path to walk the stream to fish. The stream was a few meters away from the beaten path, so we did not need to worry. I took out a string, tied it to a hook, pierced a worm on the hook, and dropped it into the water. I then sat on a root and began to wait. Now this one finds this relaxing, whispered Mint as she sat on my shoulder, a content look on her face. Agreed, I whispered to her, as the light of the sun shone across the sky, turning it from dark blue to a pinkish color. The sounds of birds tweeting filled the air. A light breeze blew, filling my nose with the smell of the earth below me. It was a nice smell. As the time passed and the sky went from pinkish to light blue, our stomachs growled. We had yet to catch anything. I could hear footsteps from behind me. Orsted was awake. Catch anything? He loudly asked as he plopped himself on the ground. I'm sure you've scared away the fish now, I said, rolling my eyes. Ah, well, he said with a shrug. Come now, I'll teach you how to survive out in the woods. I already know how, I said as I cast my line once more. All right then, what plants are edible? He asked. Which mushrooms? What? I asked, puzzled. I thought so. Orson chuckled. Let's go. Come on, I know where to get good food. Mint and I followed Orson, who led us to a big white rock. He grabbed it, yanked it off the ground, and split it open with his hands. This here's a giant puffball, he said, grinning. You can safely eat it. It's honestly the best wild mushroom to find when you're out on the road. Put this bad boy in a pot, cook it good, and eat well. Interesting. Hey, look over here, said Orson as he pointed to a tree with mushrooms growing on it. They were white, wide, and had wavy edges. These are known as oyster mushrooms. You can plop them into a stew to make it meatier and tastier. Orson then mentioned for me to follow him to a log on the ground. He lifted it, revealing a wide assortment of bugs and worms. I recognized them: beetles, grubs, and ants. He grabbed the beetle and, why, God, why? Beetles make for good bug meat, he said as he chewed and swallowed. Grubs, too. They're very meaty, don't you know? As for ants, though, don't bother. They're too small to eat. I am sickened. Whatever hunger I felt has vanished. In the night, you can catch a good variety of flying bugs, said Orsted as he waved his hand around. Moths are rich in fat, and they're easy to catch once you got a good fire going. Oh, but don't ever eat anything that has more than 6 legs, all right? Spiders, centipedes, millipedes, pillbugs. Avoid those. They're poison. Oh, and don't eat bees either. Having lost my appetite, the three of us continued our journey. Whenever we came across a plant I had never seen, Orsid would tell me about it and tell me if it was edible or not. That mushroom is red and white and it has gills, said Orsid as he pointed at a bright red mushroom. Do not eat it. If you can pluck it, you can eat it, said Orsid as he pointed to a raven on the branch. When you're out in the world and running out of food, you don't get to be picky, but it pays to know what's safe to eat and what isn't. When you find the bush of wild berries, always check for other animals, said Orsted as he showed me a bush of blackberries. He popped some into his mouth. If you ever see animals like birds or chipmunks eating them, it means the berries are safe to eat. Also, it means that a bush like this will be a great place to set up a trap to hunt wild animals. We continued walking until we came upon a little cottage in a clearing in the woods. It was a quaint little cottage with a straw roof, log walls, and a nice flower bed filled with pink and white flowers. Bees buzzed around the flowers, and from the cottage window I could see a pie cooling off in the summer breeze. Well, we're not going anywhere near that little cottage, said Orson as he dragged me away from the cottage. Seriously, that's just asking for trouble. Oh my, said a little old woman as she stepped out of the cottage. She had long silver hair, a wrinkled face, and she walked with a cane. Travelers, would you care to come inside for some pie? But before I could answer, Orstead covered my mouth, picked me up, and ran as fast as he could. Once we were deep inside the forest, he dropped me to the ground. What the blazes is wrong with you? I angrily asked as I got up. Kid, try to use reason, Orstead angrily replied. Little old lady all alone in the woods, a mysteriously inviting cottage out in the middle of the forest. She was a witch! That is ridiculous, I said as I angrily dusted myself off. Mint? I checked my pockets, and Mint wasn't there. I checked the bag. She wasn't there. Mint is gone! I exclaimed, my heart racing a mile a minute. Because of you, we've lost Mint! Now let's not panic, said Orson. Where did you last see her? She was on my shoulder when we arrived at the cottage, I said, my eyes widened. She might still be there. And that is the end of chapter 6. Hey, Maria, how are you? You caught me at the tail end of the stream. Let's go, the last chapter. Orstead and I had hurried back to the cottage in search of Mint, but when we arrived, my jaw just dropped. The idyllic little clearing in the wood was now a nightmarish sight. Where there were flowers and bees, now stood dead stalk and bloated flies. Trees were now barren stumps, devoid of as much as a single leaf. The little cottage, once inviting, now stood foreboding on wood stumps in the shape of chicken legs. I've heard of this, said Orsted, his voice glum. There is a tale on the eastern part of Rune of a witch who resides in a cabin in Chicken Lakes. They call her the Witch of the Woods, and it is said that she devours anyone who comes near her home. Mint could be in there, I said as I drew my sword, ready to fight anyone who dares harm the little fairy. If she is, it's too late, Orsted glumly said, his head hanging low. Should the Witch of the Woods get her hands on any trespasser, they shan't live to see another day. Mint is small, I argued. It is likely that she has evaded the witch's gaze thus far. But if you go in, you will certainly die, Orsted said, looking at me sadly. Please, Roy, abandon this foolishness. You have my sympathies, but nothing, I said as I began to run towards the cabin. As I approached the entrance, the cabin's chicken legs seemingly got up to walk. I jumped and humped to the steps leading to the door, climbing up. As I reached the door, the cabin began to move. I looked down. The cabin was walking. I opened the door and stumbled inside. The inside was a far cry from the little cottage I had mentioned earlier. The walls were decorated with all manner of animal heads, feet, and skeletons. I could see the feet of boars nailed to the wall, while the skeletons of lizards were left hanging close to the ceiling. The skeletal heads of wolves were spread around on trophies. The floor was hardly any better, with all manner of books and bottles of questionable liquids strewn about haphazardly. In the far-off corner was a bed of straw, with a cauldron at its feet. I got up off the floor to look for Mint. The cabin was small. Were it not for this inglorious mess, I could find her easily. Turn back, a soft voice rang in my ear. She will eat you. Who's there? I asked, louder than intended. She will find you, said a far more hoarse voice. Turn back and forget what you've seen. Who is that? I asked, and I made the mistake of turning around. You will die if you stay, said the soft voice, coming from the lizard's head in a jar of bubbling water. Turn back. She knows no mercy, said a hoarse voice, coming from a wolf's head that was half decayed. Return from whence you came, and never speak of what is in here. I can't, I said, standing my ground. Not until I find my friend. Your friend is dead, said the lizard head. Go back. I don't believe you, I said, tightening my fist. Until I find her or her corpse, I won't leave. You have been warned, said the wolf's head, before it and the lizard grew silent. I wish I could say I wasn't scared, but the truth is that I was fighting back the urge to just turn tail and run. My hands were shaking violently. My throat was tight. My heartbeat was so loud I swear it would give me away if I were to hide. But no matter where I looked, I could find no sign of Mint. I was about to give up when something caught my eye. A small door beneath the bed. I crawled under the bed and opened the door, revealing a whole basement beneath the cabin. I climbed down and found myself in a much tidier room than the cabin above. There were 5 tables in this room, one against each wall and one in the middle. The middle table held a cup of gold and a silver staff with a purple orb. The table at the north wall held a ball of crystal. The wall to the east held a large book bound by black leather, with a demon's face on the front. The western wall's table held a simple crown of gold, a bottle of some sweet-smelling liquid, and a very sweet-smelling bar of soap. Finally, the southern wall had a small cage, with a statue of a centaur next to it, and inside that cage was Mint! I exclaimed as I rushed to my little friend. Are you hurt? This one is sorry, said my little fairy friend as tears rolled down her face. The smell of pie was so sweet, and this one found herself flying towards it. But the old woman found this one flying to her pie, so she captured this one and put her in the cage next to the centaur. I'm here to rescue you, I said as I opened the cage. Thankfully, the key was right next to the centaur statuette. Take the centaur too, said Mint, pointing to the statuette. He's been here a long time, and he is very lonely. Fine, fine, I said, grabbing the centaur statuette. It was a small statuette, around 30 centimeters tall and 30 long, of a centaur with long hair and a ponytail and a beard. I sheathed my sword so as to carry the statuette while Mint sat on my shoulders. I climbed out of the basement and crawled out from beneath the bed. But as soon as I got up, the front door burst open. In walked an old woman with a wooden cane, her stringy white hair all over her face, wearing a tattered robe. My, a visitor? Asked the old woman, reading. I give you all the welcome I have to offer you. Never in my life did I feel this much fear. Something about the old woman just screamed, Danger! Why not have a seat? Said the old woman as she tapped the ground with her staff, causing a chair to appear behind me. A strong gust blew me off my feet, landing me on the chair. Mint held on tightly to me, but for some reason I still clutched the statuette. Try as I might, I couldn't get off the chair. It was as if something was holding me. My, it sure gets lonely out here, said the old woman as she snapped her fingers, causing the cauldron to roll up to her. A fire appeared beneath the cauldron, which soon filled with green, bubbling water. I get so few visitors. I wonder why it is that they fear the witch in the woods. I gulped, and Mint held on to me. I could feel her trembling with terror. Oh, how I'd love to have you for dinner, grinned the witch as her gaze turned steely and cold. But suddenly Orsted appeared behind her, pushing her right into the cauldron. Whatever held me to that chair disappeared, and the three of us rushed out of the cabin, running as quickly as we could. And that is the end of chapter 7 and the end of this dramatic reading. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, all that rainbow in between and beyond, thank you for tuning in to tonight's stream. I know it was a little weird, not what I usually do, and I know some of you were expecting Fallout or Skyrim, but I'm just not. I couldn't today, okay? I couldn't today. Such a lovely night. I couldn't. I couldn't. Maybe tomorrow, I don't know. But anyway, thank you all for joining me. My name is El Vencedor, and yeah, if you like tonight's stream, give it a like. If you want more, subscribe. I check my channel description for my schedule. Don't forget that this story that I've read tonight is free for you to read on royalroad.com. There is a link in the video's description if you want to read it yourself. And don't forget that my game, Garden Monsters, is coming out soon on Steam, so be sure to wishlist it. And don't forget, it's coming out November 10th. Well, this is our Vencedor saying thank you for watching.